Hi, my name is John Emmert. I'm the Director of Worldwide Sales and Strategy for IBM's Data and AI. Today, I'm here to talk about Data Fabric, the key to delivering strategic business outcomes. Before I jump into the presentation and topic itself, I want to say how tremendously jealous I am that I'm not in Stockholm. It's quite honestly probably my favorite city in the world. I even have a picture here behind me that is from a fairly famous restaurant there in Stockholm, Gastrologic. If you haven't been and you live in the area, please absolutely go. Enough with my personal stories of one of my pleasures whenever I travel, which are restaurants. Let's now take a listen to Ferd, the Chief Information Architect from ING, about the data fabric, what it means to him, and then we'll continue on with the remainder of the presentation.
We've built a very governed data lake at ING. Over time, it doesn't get easier or faster to put in more data. As we are moving our data between different countries, but also more and more into cloud, it becomes harder for us to govern that data, to understand where data is going, to build all these manual activities to get the data to the right place. We had this dream if we could have this abstraction layer between the data and the consumer, so that in essence we can consume data anywhere, as long as we have the right purpose. We don't have to know where the data comes from. There should be this layer that just makes it possible for us to consume data that is automatically ingested, automatically mapped, and has all the policies enforced because we understand what the data is. And this is really what the data fabric is all about. ING employees can just use that data to make decisions, no matter where they are. As long as they have the right purpose, as long as that data is allowed to be seen by them for their purpose, they can do it.
You've just heard from ING how they're leveraging the data fabric to advance their digital transformation in the enterprise. Now let's take a deeper dive on the data fabric and how it specifically helps to deliver strategic business outcomes. Roughly 3 years ago, we launched the IBM AI Ladder, launched in February of 2018, which ultimately was a prescriptive approach to help organizations accelerate their journey to AI. Throughout this process, we've seen many other software providers leverage this strategy within their documentation and materials, and then also have seen our customers implement this literally hundreds of times. But what's happened? Many have architected with just one task in mind, meaning that they've picked best-of-breed solutions that technically integrate with other solutions, but it's really delivered a fragmented approach. What does that mean? What that means is that because of all of these rungs being disconnected and then multiple different solutions across collect, organize, analyze, and fuse, the line of business users, the people that are consuming the data and putting the data into use in the enterprise, have a lacking experience. And then from an IT perspective, 30% of the IT professional's time is spent just making these things work together. And this problem's ultimately going to get worse. If we look at the eras that we're in currently, compared to the past, where we have Moore's law with computing power, Metcalfe's law, which was focused on networks and connectivity, and now we're in an era which we call the knowledge era, which is all about leveraging data and AI to make better decisions within the enterprise. But there's a problem. The available data is increasing rapidly. And I don't need to make some comparison about the data created today versus the data created the last 5 years or 10 years, because we've all heard those stats. But the bottom line is the available data is increasing rapidly. The knowledge or usable data in the enterprise is not increasing at that pace. And therefore, there's a huge gap of unusable data in the organization, and it's growing wider and wider. And ultimately, that means that these organizations cannot leverage data and artificial intelligence in their organization to deliver on the outcomes that they want to deliver on. And what are those outcomes? How are these organizations looking to maximize their potential? We see organizations talk to things that are on their 10K and executive communications and strategy documents, and they almost always center around data and AI. Things like focusing on customer centricity, within the experience, operational resiliency, excellence in all of their products and services. All of these organizations want to deliver on these things, but we found that they're unable to. And back to this same point again, why are they unable to deliver on smarter business outcomes like customer centricity? Is because they have limitations in their enterprise around data access, usage, consistency, cohesiveness, and therefore they're only delivering a portion of these smarter business outcomes. And they're not allowed to deliver on all of these things that you see in the strategic documentation for all of the enterprise organizations out there. And ultimately, at its core, it's back to the point previously of the disconnected ladder, where you do not have a connected state across collect, organize, analyze, and fuse. And the legacy state of most organizations looks something like this, where I've got Teradata and Oracle and Salesforce and SAS and Snowflake now. And ultimately, this complexity from an architectural design standpoint means that even if I somehow am able to piece together and integrate all of these solutions and somehow deliver on the smarter business outcomes like we talked about around customer centricity, continuous improvement, and operational agility, I'm doing it much less efficiently than I can. And I'm also doing it by only using a portion of the data. 60 to 73% of the data in an organization goes unused. So what does that say about the outcomes that I'm currently delivering on? It probably means that I'm making decisions based upon incomplete data sets. It probably means that I could make better decisions if I integrated all of my enterprise data. So what does IBM propose? We propose the IBM Data Fabric. And it's really about delivering simplicity for the end users, simplicity for the IT department so that they can have an easier time integrating all of their solutions. And the thing that I'll point out here is this isn't a monolithic rip and replace. We're talking about working with existing investments and getting more out of them in a better and integrated fashion at 8 times faster and half the cost of what organizations are doing today and what the competition provides. So that ultimately we can deliver on these outcomes that we've talked about multiple times here: customer centricity, operational agility, and total quality management. And so how do we do this? Back to the AI ladder again. Collect, organize, analyze, and fuse. By taking an approach of the AI ladder coupled with the data fabric, organizations are seeing 30% reduction in time for integration, 30% reduction in deployment time, and 70% less maintenance across their entire stack. But let's dive in. What does this actually look like from an implementation standpoint? So we start at the bottom with AutoSQL, which is all about querying all of your data regardless where it lives, whether it's on third-party clouds, private cloud, IBM cloud, and so on. A cloud-native warehouse that allows you to execute extremely quickly against data whenever you're looking to land data near your applications. Auto Catalog is ultimately about connecting to all of these data sources, profiling them, classifying them, making them available for business users to consume, coupled with auto privacy, which layers on enforceable policy control to ensure that people like contractors or general salespeople or marketers aren't looking at information that they shouldn't look at. Things like GDPR, PII, HIPAA, and so on. Auto privacy ensures that the right people get the right data at the right time. Then the next step, once they have that data, what do they do with it? How do they implement it and put it into their applications using things like auto AI? So that regardless of my skill level, regardless of the skill level of the persona in the organization, I'm able to build machine learning and deep learning models and infuse those into my applications, whether it be through a coding approach, a Canvas drag and drop, or a click-through GUI. We allow all personas in the organization to act on this data. And then finally, with our partnership with Palantir, providing low-code, no-code approach for business applications to actually make sense of the data. Around this, the data fabric is the material that holds all of this together and makes it usable for the end users in the organization, and then also makes the IT organization have a much easier time delivering results, all while delivering this 53% faster compared to current industry benchmarks. Now let's take a dive into the technology by taking a look at a demo of the data fabric. So this is Cloud Pak for Data as a Service running on IBM Cloud right now. It can be deployed on any cloud from a software perspective, riding on Red Hat OpenShift, Azure, Google, AWS, on premises, and so on, as well as a hybrid manner. This is where you land if you're a data consumer. So imagine yourself in a consumer role where maybe you're a marketing persona. And I'm a marketer and I'm interested in understanding some things about my customers and then infusing a customer machine learning model into my business process, ultimately around upselling a marketing campaign. I, within the data fabric, am able to quickly come in and see all of the data assets that are available to me with my organization. And I can actually search on specific data sets across the top to filter. So I can see here that I have a customer file that I might want to use. This is an asset that's owned by one of my colleagues, Carson Masterson, and I know that it's probably of value. It has some sensitive information. And you can see here that we've got 7 columns that are masked. These columns are masked based upon enforceable privacy controls that are set based upon my role-based access and then also the makeup of the columns themselves. So within the data fabric has some intelligence built in, machine learning algorithms that understand things that are sensitive, like customer IDs or the state that somebody may live in, national ID identifiers, and so on. And we can set enforceable privacy controls that allow someone like myself to still get access to the data, to understand if this data might be interesting to my project, while at the same time blocking the things that we might be worried about from a sensitive data perspective. And you could apply this to all types of regulations, including things like GDPR. This is all done within our profiling tab, where you can actually see the breakdown on the profile of the data. Here, again, you can see that some of these profiles are unavailable to me because of my role within the organization. But at the same time, I'm still able to get full use of this data to understand the makeup of the data so that I could actually go and use it in my daily work stream. Now, what do I do next? Now that I've found a data asset that I'm interested in, I can grab that asset and add it to a project. In this instance, I've got a distribution marketing project here. I actually already have this preloaded. So now I'm in the project where I actually do work with this data. And it's extremely important that we stay consistent across the process here, because the marketer doesn't want to show up in a data catalog and have a completely different experience than they have when they're actually trying to implement in work. So here you can see that my customer file has landed. I've actually already went in and built a customer offer model based upon a time series forecast that said, based upon what my customer has purchased in the past, what do I think that they're going to purchase in the future based upon a variety of different factors? In this case, because I'm a marketer, I don't know how to code in Python or Scala. So what I used is Auto AI, which is a key part of Cloud Pak for Data as a Service, as well as the data fabric. I used Auto AI that automatically generated machine learning models for me. I have a number of models that I could pick here, and I've picked one of these and I've put them into production. Now, let's continue on the process here. I'm able to link Palantir for visual model representation, visual ontology mapping back to my data fabric, so that as a marketer, I can see my offers that I have out there in the marketplace. I can edit my current offer based upon its performance. And then I can understand who do I actually want to market to from a cohort perspective. And I have all of this available connected to the data fabric, which on the back end connects to 40 plus different stores. So as a marketer, you can see that I'm having a continuous process of being able to work across a stream, rather than having to go to the IT department and saying, hi, Mr. and Miss IT person, I really need these 5 pieces of data, and then shipping it over to a data scientist to say, hey, please go build me this predictive model. And then moving finally to a developer and saying, how do I integrate this into my process? Now, in this scenario, with Bass Pro Shop specifically, I have this scenario built such that I want to deliver this as an omni-channel experience. So this can be delivered in store on an associate's iPad. It can be delivered through a marketing campaign by predictive marketing pushes. But I'm also interested in integrating to this into my front end, to my customer care side of the business. And I can do things like many of you are used to, where I want to find my nearby location. Because customer care, Watson Assistant, is tied into the data fabric, it knows where I live based upon my phone number from my customer ID that I've input. And it can ask me to text me the address. So they've sent me the address, and it asks if I'm interested in seeing a special offer. Now, this is where customer care with Watson Assistant calls back into the data fabric to aggregate that machine learning model, where you can see here that I've got a personalized offer based upon my demographic information, my past purchase history, as well as the way that I'm engaging with the chat whenever I'm here in the chat. And I'll show that in a second. So it's offered me a $25 gift card if I purchase fishing gear. And then I also can get a huge rebate, and then I can dive into that offer itself. And if I'm interested, I can get transferred to an agent. And the thing that I'll point out here is there's natural language translation built in here. So if I want this to be in Spanish and German, Italian, Japanese, I can do that immediately within Watson Assistant itself. Now, the agent portal, which is the back end that the marketing person might see, the call center employee might see, also aggregates data. So you can see that I've got call intent that's being pulled in, call classification. And then the most important thing here is customer sentiment. Customer sentiment is important because this is infused back into the fabric through the machine learning model to say, is this person happy? If the person's happy, I can give them an upsell offer like I received in the chat. If the person's upset and there's a risk of churn, then you can offer an anti-churn offer that says, if you stick with us, then we'll give you 30% off on your next offer, or whatever the offer might be that's based upon the machine learning model that we aggregated. Thank you all for your time today. For additional information, I've included a couple of links here to IBM Cloud Pak for Data, as well as my personal email and my LinkedIn profile. I look forward to connecting with you all, and have a great rest of the event.